And we are live on the air. So for those of you who are just tuning in or watching the replay, thanks everyone. We're going to give it just a second so everyone knows to click the play button for people who are watching live. So we'll give everyone just a second, and I'm going to head on over to the page as well, just to let everybody know to click the play button so they can see the video. So we'll be starting the broadcast here in just a second. Just stand by, everyone. Click the play button to watch video. That'll let everyone know. All right. So, good. People are starting to tune in live. Looks like we're getting viewers. Everyone's clicking play. So, welcome, guys.
Wonderful.
This is going to be a lot of fun today. I'm really glad we've got our friend Matthew Jordan Smith joining us, and he is going to be sharing with you some successful secrets about how to run a professional photo shoot and how to succeed as a photographer. And he's going to share with you some practical lessons. He's going to let you in on a couple of workflow tips for both on-set and studio. But why don't we start off, and I'll let Matthew tell you a bit about himself. He's a great photographer who has been shooting with a lot of folks. Matthew, why don't you give people a little bit about your background? And I'll just start by saying, I think I've seen you on television before.
I've been a little lucky there for sure. I've been blessed to have a great career so far as a photographer. I've been shooting now for, sounds weird to say this, 27, 28 years now. From New York, and started my career in New York. I now live in LA and travel all over the place. You may have seen me on America's Next Top Model. I was on that show about 6 or 7 times. I've done some of the other shows as well, like Caribbean's Next Top Model, and been on Tyra's talk show, a bunch of different stuff. But I love photography, and that's the main thing. And I'm really happy to be able to meet everyone and share the joy of photography today.
Excellent, excellent. Well, we've got a great series of topics to cover. My name's Rich Harrington. I'm the publisher of Photofocus.com. And I'd also like to say a big thank you to our sponsor today, which are the folks over at Perfectly Clear. Perfectly Clear is a set of plugins available for Photoshop and Lightroom. And they also make Lucid, which is a desktop software. If you're not a Photoshop or Lightroom user, it'll also run as a plugin and Photoshop elements and other things. Now, we will be giving a copy away today. You guys might have noticed that there's a question and answer pod. So I see a couple of questions. You say here, you're looking forward to this. Thank you, Michael. You're just starting a photo studio. And hello from Saco, Maine. Aren't we supposed to see a program? Well, hopefully, Double Take Photography, you're seeing the program now. There seems to be a good number of folks tuned in. So feel free to check into the chat pod periodically or toss out questions as we go through today. I will be drawing a couple of names from that chat pod to give away 2 copies of Perfectly Clear today. So that'll give you a copy of both the Photoshop and the Lightroom version. So a big thanks to our sponsor for giving us those prizes and making great software. Well, Matthew, we're going to jump in, but I'm just going to throw you an easy question to start. When you were getting ready to switch into the world of shooting and making a living, was it just an epiphany? Did you wake up one day and say, I'm a professional photographer? Or was it a series of steps? Take people back to the beginning.
It is always a series of steps. It's funny. I think everybody wants to know, oh, what was your big break? And it's always a series of breaks that happen in your career. I think the first big break, I was born in New York, but then my family moved down south to South Carolina when I was like 7 to 8 years old. So I think my first big break was getting back to New York after going to art school. And then the next big break was getting that first job as a photo assistant, like learning the inside out of the business. And then from that, I guess, getting my first small job, then first getting my first editorial job. And then it gets like, it keeps going on from there. You had this dream where at first you just want to get published. That was my first dream, was just to get published. And then once that happened, you're like, okay, now what? And then it just kept going, and it still keeps going, The dream gets to get bigger and bigger.
Well, that's excellent. And folks, for those of you listening, it's important to hear that, you don't just wake up one day and suddenly go, oh, today I'm working with Oprah and tomorrow Tyra. Like, it takes a little bit of time of putting in your dues. And you mentioned that you were an assistant, which is great. So I think that's important. Well, you've got some great practical advice today. We're going to jump right in. Why don't you bring up your deck? We're going to share some things with folks. But again, as we're going through, guys, feel free to ask questions. I'll be keeping an eye on the question pod. And I'll make sure that Matthew gets your questions. We'll be answering those along the way. And if you are here watching live, you can check in on the pod there for a chance to win a copy. Just post in there, and that'll be great. Or you can also just ask a question, and we'll be drawing from the comments and the questions from the Q&A pod. You'll see that if you're on the desktop version, you can just view that over at Google Plus and ask those questions, or try to post a comment on the page, and we'll keep an eye on that as well. All right, so Matthew, I'm going to switch over to your slide deck. We're seeing this here, how to make a living as a photographer.
That's right. That's what it's all about. When I break it all down, it's how to make a living as a photographer. I've been very blessed, and I know that, but it wasn't always easy. And to be honest, it's still not easy. It's up and down, but I love the process. So just in case you don't know who I am, I'm going to show you a quick version of some of my images. I'm known for shooting a lot of celebrities now, but it didn't start that way at all. It's been a gradual process, and I've loved the process, the ups and the downs. I started off as a photo assistant, and then from there, everything has evolved. I'm in Tokyo right now, actually. I spoke yesterday and today to a bunch of photographers about the same thing, the joy of photography. And I love being able to do that, to share, to talk about lighting, talk about the process, to show behind the scenes. It's a great living doing what you love. I love the ability to speak to an audience about photography, and especially now having this chance to meet all of you guys today. Even though I'm here in Tokyo, I can talk to anybody all over the world this way, and it's a wonderful feeling. So I also have a podcast. It's called Master Your Lens. That's comes out every Wednesday on iTunes on the Master Your Lens podcast. But first of all, I just want to thank you guys for showing up today. That means a lot to me. And as a thank you, I want to give you something free, a free photography lighting video. It's called 10 Ways to Use One Light Source. It's packed with a lot of great information on how to behind the scenes, even illustrations on how I set up different lights. So hopefully it can be helpful to you. You can get that free download by just going to MatthewJordansmith.com/free. And that's just a little thank you, my way of saying thank you guys for showing up for today.
Well, that's very generous of you, Matthew. Folks, be sure you check that out. I've watched Matthew teach live. He really knows his way around lighting, so that sounds totally awesome. So thank you, Matthew, for that. We had 2 quick questions that I'm just going to answer while you queue up your next slide, and these are easy. People are saying, I have Lightroom and Photoshop. What version of Perfectly should I get to start with one? There's a deep discount, so you can actually get both of them pretty cheap. I'd recommend the bundle, but if that's not an option, then just go where you do the most finishing. For me, that's Photoshop. If you're looking for quick batch processing, go with the presets for Lightroom. And yes, it will work with Photoshop Elements. So the other things, just to queue it up, is we have a good question that I'm sure you're going to get to, which is about running that shoot. So you are in the right place. We are talking about running shoots today, guys. So just hang on, Jim. This is how to succeed. And the first part of running a shoot is actually planning. But before planning, it's what Matthew has on the screen. You got to actually get the clients. So
absolutely.
Go for it, Matthew.
Sounds good. So what you're going to learn today is definitely some secrets about how to get clients. You're also going to learn some secrets about turning those clients into repeat clients, because that's really the bottom line. To have a career is about having that same client over and over and over again. It's harder to get the first client. You want to keep them and keep them happy. Then it's about how to get those clients to refer you to clients. It's one thing for you to go out there and try to hustle and get clients. It's another thing when your clients tell other people about you, which is much better. It's like, getting a friend's referral. That's the best thing in the world. So hopefully this will help you get all that happening today. And then secrets to how to make your clients extremely happy, and then you enjoying your life. So let's jump into it, and feel free to jump in with any questions as well, Richard. So the first thing is secrets to getting clients. You got to grab their attention with powerful images right away. Everybody has a camera today, but you have to stand out as a photographer with your best images, being creative, putting how you feel personally into your work. When you do that, people feel it, they see it, and they respond by hiring you. So some tips about that is only show your best work. I can't emphasize that enough. only show your best work. You've got to love it. So if you don't love it, don't show it. I love this line by Al Pacino from that movie Heat years ago. He says, if there's any doubt, there is no doubt. So in your photography, if you look at one of your pictures and you have any doubt about that image being a great image, don't show it.
And so there's actually a question kind of related to that, which is saying, if I'm trying to build a portfolio, how do I do that? Like one of the questions we had is, how can we get models to work with us, getting started, or do you have any suggestions if you want to just do a personal project? Matthew, you work with a lot of top talent and obviously clients, but what about for folks who are just trying to build that portfolio to start?
I remember that day. It feels like yesterday because I know exactly how you guys feel. I was in that same situation, just trying to get somebody to shoot with me in the beginning. This is back when I was an assistant, and I was always testing, and I still test all the time. So you want to go out there. If you're wherever you are in any city, you can find a local modeling agency and just show your work. Get a meeting, try to get an in-person meeting and meet the booker at an agency, show your work, and just shoot anybody and everybody. In the very beginning, they'll give you their very inexperienced models. Don't worry about that. Photograph anybody and everybody you can. You need to be shooting and then get into the feeling of getting to the period where you're always showing your best work.
Excellent. Thank you. Yep.
So moving right along now throughout this presentation here, becoming a master of lighting is, I think, essential to really being a great photographer today more than ever. Again, because there are so many people with cameras now, you must stand out. And one way to stand out is really learning to master lighting. The art of lighting is something that is harder to learn. So once you learn that skill, you'll be ahead of the group for sure. So take your time.
Yeah, let's talk about this image for a second here, Matthew. So I like this. You got a lot of drama here. Can you walk folks sort of like the setup, what you were thinking?
Absolutely. I wanted something that had a lot of a dramatic edge to it. So I'm using two lights. I'm using a spot that's just lighting her face. Mm-hmm. And then I have a backlight that's the hair light. And it's very soft. So I didn't want the entire body to go dark. So I have white fill cards around to throw that light back in. So the backlight, that's that soft light on her hair, is also acting as the fill light as well. It's coming from behind. And then I have white boards right in front of me. So that backlight is bouncing back from the boards to light her body.
Okay, so the light that you're using as a hair light is then being reflected back for softer light on the face?
Around the body. Yeah. So that's around the body that's giving that little, just letting us have a little peek into the body. And then the light on the eyes is all a pro photo zoom reflector that's focused just on the eyes.
Very cool. Can you pull your cursor down, Matthew? Some folks are finding your cursor on the screen to get in the way of their enjoyment. Just pull it to the side. Perfect. Yeah, it looks great. Well, I enjoy that photo quite a bit. Very nice.
Thank you.
Very
Thank
nice.
you. Some days I get lucky.
Some days you work really hard too.
Exactly. So it's definitely always about lighting. If you want to stand out. So here's just a behind the scenes shot on set. I love having a lot of my images like one light. If you think about the sun, it's really just one light source, but you can do so much with the sun. I like in studio doing the same thing. I only use more than one light when it's necessary. So for this story, I'm using one light to do a wedding gown story, to give the drama, just like the sun, that one light that gives you everything. Here again, it's one light, but that one light's coming from behind the model and again, bouncing into white boards and filling the model's face. You can actually see me in her eye reflection and the white boards as well. Then this is Tyra, and I'm using several lights here. I'm using Kino Flow lights on this one. And this is just about giving that glow to the skin, making it stand out. And then I have
And
Go
for
ahead.
those who aren't familiar, Kino flow lights are fluorescent tubes, but they're specially balanced usually for daylight or tungsten, and they produce a really
Exactly.
soft, even light that's very pleasing for a subject. They're also popular for video. So was this a pure photo shoot, or were you doing some video here too?
Actually, this is pure photo, but
Okay.
I found out about Kinoflows from video people for sure. But I love the light quality. It's amazing light.
Now we have a good question here, and it doesn't have to be specifically about Tyra, but Ricardo's asking, when you have a model, how do you interact with them? Because you're getting these great poses and expressions. Do you have any advice, Matthew, on how to connect with that subject and put them at ease early on?
Absolutely. It absolutely starts before they come on your set. Like when a model first comes in to do a shoot with me, if it's the first time meeting and they're doing hair and makeup, I'm back there doing the hair and makeup, getting to know them, asking them just about their life. What's the last movie that they saw? What's the last book they read? I want to find out about them. Who's their boyfriend? Are they dating? Just silly stuff, just about their life, about social media. Are they on Instagram? Anything, just to break the ice and find out more about them before they get on the set. If you start working with them on the set and trying to get something going, then it's too late. You've got to start a connection before that. So the entire time is just that person to person relationship, you getting to know them and then making a bond. And then as you're shooting people, making it, sometimes they're nervous as well. So you want to take that away from them by keeping that conversation going as you're shooting. I'll shoot, I'll talk, I'll shoot, I'll talk, and I'll make it fun for them as well.
Very cool. Very cool. And let's go ahead on to your next slide. But one thing to think about that people are asking, because we're starting at sort of the beginning of the shoot here, and this is perfect. So, you're putting a team together here, you're deciding on how to pull this all together. How do you know how many people to bring on set? Obviously, budget dictates it, and, we can have too many people or too few, but how'd you put this thought together here?
So I always have like at least two assistants as much as possible. Of course, budgets change things for sure these days. I always want to have two assistants on set. Sometimes there's three. Sometimes these days it's just one. But I want a team behind me that I can depend on. I'm very picky about my assistants. I remember that whole process of being an assistant and what that was like. So I'm picky about having the right people on set because they're part of my family on set. So here's an image actually behind the scenes of a photo shoot. And you can see my assistant actually holding tea for me because I like tea when I shoot and watching the camera, making sure I'm doing everything correctly.
And you typically have makeup artists on your set. That's one thing that a lot of people moving into portrait photography struggle with. You know, I'm just going to go on record and say that you probably weren't born knowing a lot about makeup through the years, Matthew. How'd you
No, I
learn
didn't.
about finding a good makeup artist and, how to pick folks and, who do you turn to when you're building that team, especially if you're traveling? You can't always fly all your folks with you, or sometimes it's collaboration. So how do you build that team? And particularly, how do you know how to find a good makeup artist?
That's a very good question. And a friend just asked me that same question. So I'm in Tokyo right now, and I was here a month ago as well, and working on a new series of images. So I don't know hair, makeup models here. So I had to find people for the first time. So what I'm doing now is probably what people are doing for the first time all over America, trying to find a team and get them to work with you. So the first thing I do usually is go online and look around for talented people. Sometimes I'm looking on a site like a Model Mayhem even to find, talented hair or makeup. I learned about looking for makeup as an assistant. I learned a lot back then. It's not just about photography. When it comes to photography, it's about the entire team. As the photographer, you are the director. You're in charge of hair, makeup, styling, and picking the right people. So early on, I learned how to really pay attention to makeup, pay attention to hair, and look for those little subtle changes that make it very beautiful. So when it comes to makeup, I'm extremely picky.
That makes a lot of sense. So, and the last question about makeup, because this is just on people's mind. Oh, that's a beautiful image. Um, How do you know what to pay? Is this, are makeup artists usually pretty standard as you move, or is there a wide variety as you move around the world and work in different markets?
It's funny because that's actually a good question. They're actually around the same rate, be it in Asia, be it in Europe, be it in the States. And starting out, actually, when you're brand new as a photographer and you're starting to test, you want to find makeup artists who are just starting to test as well, and it's a collaboration. So when you find a great team of people, you'll work together for free. Just to they'll want pictures for their portfolios, for their website, and you need pictures with great models and great makeup. So it's a collaboration at first. In the beginning, you should not be paying for hair, makeup, and models. You want to find a team of people who are all hungry to start their careers and build work together. That's how I started.
That makes a lot of sense. So what you're saying there is, as you're getting started, or depending on sort of the price you're at, you'll likely be able to find other professionals who are at a similar point in their career, and you can help each other. So if you're not
Absolutely.
billing at top dollar, you'll still find a makeup artist who's getting started or a stylist who's getting started. That makes a lot of sense.
Exactly.
All right.
And
Well,
sometimes you can find people at the store, like going to the mall and going to the Mac counter. You'll find very talented people sometimes, even at your local mall.
all right. Well, why don't you go ahead and walk us through this image a little bit, and give us a little bit of insight into how you came up with the idea, and what the end goal was.
This is actually a great shot because I was teaching my interns about how to tell a story. And I had this list. I had this list of opposites. When I'm trying to find a creative idea, I go to my list of opposites, hot, cold, big, small, yin, yang. So on that list, I had this yin and yang. And I'm telling my interns about how to tell a story. And we go through and we start working on this series of images where we shot two models and did this yin and yang story. And people loved it so much. I sent the story into a magazine. They loved it so much they made it the cover of the magazine. And this is probably one of my two top selling images now of my personal work.
Very cool. So
So
this is a good one, having fun when you shoot, because a couple of questions have popped up in the chat pod about people just asking about, how do you plan everything out in advance? Do you got a preconceived notion? Do you experiment? How do you make your
mm,
clients feel relaxed? So I think this is part of the secret, right? Like, if you're having fun, that means you're relaxed and they're relaxed.
absolutely, absolutely. You've got to. I love all those questions because they're all relevant. You've got to have fun on set. And when your clients see you having fun, it changes the whole feeling about how they feel. You can't get that great energy unless you're giving that great energy. Let's go through a couple of these. So all this stuff, it's not a pose. It's a real moment. It's me catching that moment as they're having a great time. This image of Queen Latifah, this is the first time I ever worked with her. So the first time is so important. And the day she came in for the shoot, she was in a bad mood. So I'm like, oh man. But I'd made music just for the photo shoot that I thought she'd want to hear. So I also had flowers in the dressing room waiting for her when she walked in. So she goes to hair and makeup. She's getting hair and makeup done. The flowers are there waiting for her. She's in a bad mood when she walks in, but she sees the flowers, she hears the music, and she walks out of hair and makeup and walks out to meet me. She says, "Are you Matthew?" I'm like, "Yes." She says, "Thank you for the flowers. And I love this music." And that started our relationship. And we shoot now all the time. This is like maybe 8 years ago this picture was done, but we shoot all the time now. But that first meeting is so important. You have to have fun, and they must feel that you love what you're doing.
That's great advice. So here you are. It looks like you're using a lot of natural light. So earlier, when we were seeing the shadows on the ground, was this coming from this actual window?
It was actually. It was. It's funny because I had two sets this day, and the other sets were packed with different lights, but the light coming in the studio was so beautiful. And going back to the shot, when my client told me shooting this place, like, you have all this equipment here, you have all this gear. Why are you using the daylight? I'm like, because it's here and it's beautiful. So I ended up shooting this way, and the magazine ended up using this image inside the magazine and a shot for the cover based off the natural daylight.
Very nice, and that's good because we've had people pop up here with questions about using, strobes or continuous, and you bring up a good point, and that is, sometimes daylight. It sounds like you're using whatever tool gets the job done, and that's good because you're thinking about how to get the best image.
Yes, well, everything I've learned about light, everything I've learned about photographic lighting, I've learned from the sun by studying the sun. So it's just one of the options I have. I don't cut it out for sure. I love working with strobe, absolutely. I love working with continuous light for sure. And I use both of those all the time. But then I also use daylight when it's available. Someone was asking about, I think earlier a question came about how do you get started in photography? How do you, really stand out? And one way to do that is to have an event. If you're brand new to a town, say if I moved to another country or another town and I want to get my name known in a brand new area, I moved from New York to LA or Wisconsin or wherever, the first thing I would do is have a photo exhibit and invite everybody I know, everybody who I want to work with to that exhibit to see my work. Having an exhibit gives you a chance to have press, to call people in to, you know, to see your work who you'd like to work with. It just gives you a chance to have a great time and hopefully meet new clients. Now, the benefits of having a photo exhibit, there are many. First one is it draws attention to new clients, new potential clients. You also have your current clients come by. It makes them feel special. And then it gives you an opportunity for local press. And this is great. If you're in a small market, it's very easy to get press because they're looking for you anyway. They want something to write about. And people love getting out away from the computers and going to an event. They can dress up, come out, have some wine and cheese, and see beautiful pictures.
Now, do you ever, during those events, hold a live photo shoot, or do you ever let potential clients come on the set to see a shoot?
I don't do that. I don't have a live shoot at an event. I want to make sure I'm schmoozing if I'm having an event. I want to network and just have people enjoy themselves. And then on a photo shoot, it's hard, especially with the shoots I do today, it's hard to invite anybody who's not part of the team on the set because I want to make sure I'm in control of everybody. I think the number one question I get is, "Oh, can I just come and be on a shoot with you?" And that's hard because I want to make sure that everybody on the set is somebody who I feel I know very well and that they are part of the family almost to come into the shoot.
Makes sense. So now
The,
you're saying before we actually you're going to target people that you want to shoot. And let's talk about this two ways, Matthew, both getting ready for the shoot, doing the research of somebody that you're going to be shooting with or you think you're going to be shooting with, as well as identifying those people, those prospects.
Absolutely. I think both are essential to do. Number one, researching your clients that you have, jobs that are coming up, and then researching who you want to shoot with. You should have a wish list, your top 10 list of clients that you want to shoot for each year. Who do you want to work for? What's your goal? What are you aiming for? The one thing that's so important, say you want to shoot for a magazine, you've never shot for the magazine. The first thing you should do is get that magazine and start looking at the work and what they use. You want to know the editors. You want to know the beauty editor, the fashion editor. If you're shooting fashion, if you're shooting landscapes, you want to know those people as well, those photo editors. You want to know the type of work that they love
And
because
that actually
editors love photography.
Right. And that actually ties in perfectly. We have a question from Cody that says, how much do you let your clients influence the shoot? And how often do you follow your vision? So here you're talking about shooting for editorial. I guess ultimately you want to bring something to the table that they haven't seen before. It's not just copying, but you do have to sort of acknowledge what their expectations are, right?
Yes, yes, but I love that question. And Cody, was it? I think that question is right on point because in editorial, this is where you start to brand your name. You want to definitely have your vision, and you should be shooting images that feel distinctly like you. And And editors, great editors, were going to look for you to see that you do have a vision or a point of view. They don't want to influence you where they're telling you exactly what to do. They're looking for photographers who have their own point of view. That's the most important thing in terms of becoming a star as a photographer, is having that identifiable look about your work. So definitely push your vision all the time. The more you do that, the more you'll work.
Great, great. So now you're getting ready for that shoot, or you're researching work. Now you've engaged them. So we're talking about repeat clients. So let's just say, the client comes back and says, "All right, let's shoot again." That could be tough, right? Because, well, maybe you used up all your good ideas last time, or you got to come up with something new, right? They don't want the same thing you already
Absolutely.
did.
Well, sometimes they do, which is funny as well. But you're always, I think it's hard to do the same thing over and over again. You just want to do small tweaks, but you should have your style, your way of looking at the world, and showing that in your images. So if you're looking for inspiration, look at your life. What do you love doing? Put that in your images and make sure you make your clients look amazing. And then they keep coming back over and over and over again. So I was talking today, actually, when I was speaking about how to do the same thing, how you have them coming back to you, and how you stay creative. You stay creative by getting out and living a full life, and then putting that aspect of your life in your images. It changes everything. That's how they come to you. Like at the beginning of my career, I just wanted to shoot fashion and beauty, but then celebrity came to me. It wasn't something that I planned to do or wanted to do, but it came by just me doing what I love.
So, a question for this: when you're working with folks, and before we dig into these specific slides, one thing that I sometimes wonder about, for example, is, when you're working with a model that you've hired, you're sort of directing them. And that makes
Absolutely.
sense. You're controlling the pace of the shoot. As you're working with clients who are hiring you now, oftentimes you might be subject to their schedule. So you need to be completely ready before they show on set and flexible. But how do you deal with that pressure, Matthew, if they come in and say, "I've only got 10 minutes," or, they're getting impatient with you? How do you keep control of the set to get the results that they want?
That's a good question, because I had that all the time. Very often, if I'm shooting Oprah, I have 15 minutes. That's always the case. I've been shooting her now for over 15 years, but I rarely get more than 15 minutes. It's my job to make sure I get a great image of that. So I want to make sure I have everything planned out way ahead of time. I think the hardest part of a shoot is the pre-production, everything that happens before the shoot, all the planning. You want to make sure you are ready for anything and everything. It's not time to be testing things out. You want to make sure you're good to go and you can make your client happy and get great shots at the same time. And clients are demanding, and they should be. It's a very competitive field. So, but if you are doing your best work in creating great images, they let you have that leeway. Whenever I shoot Oprah, they'll tell me right away, "Oh, you have 15 minutes." But my job is to make her feel so good that she's begging to stay for 30 minutes or 45 minutes because she's having a great time. If I can do that, I know I can keep that client forever, going back over and over and over again. Everybody wants to have a great time. And if you can have that feeling on your set where everybody has a great time, all the stress goes away, they forget about being rushed, and you get all the time you want to create.
Very cool. So let's take a look here at a specific shoot. So this is 6 different shoots with Vanessa Williams.
Yes, and the reason why I wanted to show this image is because I want to talk about how if a client likes you, they keep referring you, and that turns to other work. So my first time working with Vanessa Williams, it was for a cover shoot for a magazine. So that first contact is so important. So I gave her flowers on that first shoot and said I was so pleased to meet her. This is back in the 90s, like 94, 95. And we had such a great time creating this image. She started referring me to other clients. So then she referred me for this client. This is L'Oreal. I shot for L'Oreal. They became a client. Then she was doing a movie poster for Lifetime movie. So she referred me to Lifetime. I go to the meeting, I get the job. Lifetime becomes a client, and I shoot all these jobs for Lifetime TV. Then another magazine calls, and who refers me? Vanessa Williams again. So this is Vanessa referring me to jobs, and this has happened my entire career. As a matter of fact, this is why I have a career, because the clients I shoot for the first time refer me over and over and over again. This is
I'm picking up
Showtime.
on the secret. Give them flowers.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I do that. I've been giving Vanessa flowers for 20 years now, and she always keeps them, always takes them. And, it's led to all this great stuff. I've done different TV segments with her for different stuff. I've seen her kids grow up. It's just a wonderful thing to have a relationship where they see you having a great time. They know they're trusting you with their image, which is a very precious thing. And if you can make them look good and feel good, they want the best person to take their picture all the time.
Well, I got a question on that as you're doing all these different images, and this is a little bit technical, but it was one of the things we said we were going to address with folks, and you and I had a brief conversation.
Yes.
That is that sometimes people are wanting to shoot on set and see results. You've got clients that want to see the images as they're happening, or you've got a supervised set. Are you doing tethered shooting? And if so, when do you tether? And, do you do anything on set so before they see the images, or are you letting them watch them as they come out the camera?
Oh my God, that's a great question. Today, clients want to see it as you're shooting. As a matter of fact, I'm tethered almost all the time on big shoots. Clients want to see the image. They'll see it actually before I see it on the monitor. So as I'm shooting, there's a monitor, there's my digital tech, and the clients, they're always around the screen. They're not looking at the models or the set. They're looking at the monitor and seeing all the images come up. So my digital tech is in charge of making sure that everything is coming together really fast. And then sometimes my clients want to send it back to their boss in the office. They want to make sure they can send the best images. Sometimes they're sending it right away because every client is on a deadline. They're always in a rush for meeting their deadline. So whenever I'm shooting, it could be advertising or magazine, they all need it right away. It's part of the process.
Yeah, and that's challenging. And actually, one of the things we're going to show here in just a second is you've done some quick processing using Perfectly Clear. You've also had some input on something that I can't tell folks about, but if they're going to be at WPPI or paying attention that week, you'll be happy to see some new stuff we've been working on. But I think you bring up a good point. You have a digital tech on set. You've got people wanting to see images super fast. Gone are the days where you could just say, okay, that's a wrap, and we're gonna go get the film developed and I'll send it over to you in a couple of days, right?
Long gone. Those days are long gone. Nope, they want it super fast because they know they can get it that way. They're seeing it on the monitor as you shoot it, and they want it right away. So what's really great now about photography is that you have the ability to show anything you want and send it and look better than reality. So when I'm on set, I'm just showing this image of the process of a photo shoot. This is actually the going through and just showing a bunch of different images as we're shooting on set. And the magazine only shows that one image, but there's a whole process to getting all these images. But as you're shooting, we're tethered. Like even this shoot, I'm tethered, and the clients are all watching the monitor as I shoot. And then they pick the image that they want. I got to send that image right away, sometimes a JPEG, to the office, and then they send the high-res TIFF like the next day. So I'm going to get into showing how I go through to make images. We just want to zip out here for a quick second and zip down a little further. The time goes by so fast. So
yeah, well, and while you're doing that, folks, you've had some great questions here. I'll throw out a couple of quick answers as he gets queued up. We've talked about, having a team together. I'm sure, Matthew, that once you start working with a team over time, your rates go up a little bit to clients. Ideally, cost of living goes up, our skills go up. So I'm going to just go on the record and assume that once you gel as a team, you start to raise your rates a little bit. But great question, Gary. And, Matthew, you offered some folks a free lighting video. Do you have any favorite books or learning resources where you recommend to learn more about lighting? I know you go to conferences, but do you have any other of your favorites of peers you enjoy learning from, whether they're books or teachers?
I
Stuff?
Absolutely do. I for sure do. In terms of books, I have three favorite books I always talk about, and you'll probably be surprised by these three favorite books, but I think they're must-have books. The first one, I think, in terms of having a business in photography, the must-read book is How to Win Friends and Influence People. It's not a photography book, I know, but this is going to give you a career because you're dealing with people. Whether you're shooting landscapes or fashion, beauty, or celebrities, you're dealing with people at the core who are hiring you. How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie is a must read. Second book I think that's essential to read is Selling the Invisible, because you're not just selling photography, it's something else. Selling the Invisible is a fantastic book in terms of being a photographer. And the third book is The Alchemist, because we all have this dream and we have this vision for the way we think our life is going to go. Selling the Invisible, The Alchemist, How to Win Friends and Influence People. Those three books are a must read.
Excellent.
So in terms of getting images done quickly, today clients don't want to wait. They want it right away. And what I love today that I have, and this has changed my life in such a major way. I have my life back because I used to spend all this time after a shoot with my digital tech going through and trying to tweak images before a client gets them.
Yeah.
Now I can do it in like 5 seconds, which has changed my life in such a major way. I can't explain how much this has changed my life.
Can you go ahead and make that full screen so people could see that a little better?
Absolutely. So now I can do a shoot and I can, in 5 seconds, change an image and have it cleaned up so my clients are seeing the image that I want them to see versus just seeing a raw, naked image. Because that can be like a little off-putting sometimes. I want to be able to tweak it a little bit before they see anything. And now I can. So here with Perfectly Clear, this is actually just a small tweak on an image. I had a raw image that I've taken and tweaked just a little bit. It took me 5 seconds to do this tweak to make it look like this. I'm going to show you a few of these actually. This is another one. This is a shoot that I just did actually a couple of weeks ago in Tokyo. And this is all natural light. And the girl has great skin already. But now just going into, and this is out of the box. This is just the normal presets. This is what Beautify Plus does. And then if I want to go deeper into it, I can just do a little more. So here I am making my own adjustments and making it a little more contrasty. I'm going back and forth again for a second. So here's Beautify Plus right out the box. This is like 2 seconds to do this. And then another 3 seconds, I can go through and make my own tweaks. And then I can save this and apply this to all the images and then send my clients JPEGs of the shoot that look just like this on every shot.
Yeah. And if you guys want to learn about that workflow, we actually have a tutorial posted online. You'll find it on the Perfectly Clear YouTube page. And they show you how to just, after you save a preset, batch apply it to an entire shoot from Lightroom. So you're using the
Absolutely. That's exactly what I'm doing. I'm doing my saving my one and then turn that into
3
a
seconds
batch.
each one and batch them out before you send them on the way.
Exactly. Then I go out and have a life again.
Yeah, you can leave the hotel room.
Yes, exactly. Before I was stuck for hours going through and tweaking and changing. Now it takes me no time, and I love that. I have my life back. This is a very popular girl right now. This is Zendaya, and who has amazing skin, great person on set, great energy. And you see the picture on the left, it looks great already. But in 5 seconds, I can do a quick change and make it look amazing. So I am in love with Perfectly Clear. It's changed my life. It works with Lightroom and Photoshop, and I have my life back.
Very cool. I love how that just brought some of that out. So yeah, so you want to, if you want to open up Photoshop in a second, I'm going to show my screen really quick while you get your images up
Perfect.
and rolling. And then we'll take that and then we'll be giving away a couple of things. So let me just switch over here, folks. We'll do a couple of quick power tips in the software. So let me know, can you guys see Photoshop? I'm going to open up one of my own images. I had some of Matthew's opened up just for safety there to be fine. But can you guys see my screen okay? Looks like it. Matthew, are you seeing my screen?
I'm not. Oh yes, I am now. There we are. There we
Perfect.
are.
There's a little, yeah, it's got a little echo effect going. So let me just get that open here. I'm going to open up a demo image, and I'm going to go on record here, folks, and just say, so we're perfectly clear that I am not a portrait photographer. I'm more of a landscape photographer, but I'm going to focus on portraits today, just so we can take a look at some of those things that can be challenging. And I'll open up a couple of pictures here that could benefit from just a light touch up. And I'm a fan of not having to get too heavy on an image, but being able to just fill in things. So we'll just take actually a simple portrait here, and this one here should work. And let's open these up. And again, these are my images. We'll just take a personal one here. And, this is my family. And in my family, we have bags under our eyes almost all the time. Don't get enough sleep, it comes in. So it just runs in the family. This is my young daughter. And what I'm going to do here is just run Perfectly Clear. And it'll come up. And we'll just apply one of those presets like Beautify. So it's nice and simple. And you see with that gentle Beautify preset, it just filled in the shadows under the eyes. Let's punch in there a little bit. And I like that. And then if I decide that I want to tweak that a little bit, I'll just jump over to the Adjust tab, a little bit more sharpening. And this image had already been sharpened by Photoshop, but now it's just popping a little bit. I can do the eye enhance and fill in the dark circle. And there's even a catch light if you want to put a little catch light in the eyes, just to bring that out slightly, although there was one there naturally already. And then if I like that, I just click Create, and I can call that preset Kid Portrait. And now I can use that going forward. And what's kind of cool is if you are using any of the exposure adjustments, they analyze the image. So if the image was a little bit brighter, it would take it to the normal level. A little bit darker, it pulls it to the same level. So they're relative adjustments as opposed to absolute. And I just kind of love how it brings out the drama in the eyes. That's one of my favorite things about it. Those eyes now just pop. Now, and if it's too much, or you say, I pushed it too far, you got one click opacity slider here, which is basically a fade between the two states. And it's not simply opacity, it just blends them back together. So if you found yourself and you go, you know what, I just took it too far, just use that one slider. You don't have to go through and pull down all the sliders. You can use the Uber slider to get you there. And I hit OK. And that was the render time, which I know you love that, Matthew. I do too. I love fast software. So,
so do I.
Let me hand this back to you here. So we got your screen up, Matthew. So when you're ready, go ahead and walk us through, because your portrait images are much prettier than mine.
I don't know. Your daughter looks beautiful there. It's a great shot of her. Great shot of her. So it takes me like no time to do this. So I'm going to go to Photoshop. I have my image up already. So I would go to Filter, add and take images, perfectly cleared. Hit that, give it a chance to open up. Just analyzing the image. It's going to give me, like, right off the bat, another version of this that looks beautiful out the bat. It's taking a little time to open up. Come on, Photoshop, do your thing. There we are. Close that there. So this is without me doing anything. So I'm going to show you. There we are without any adjustments. And this is the software just reading it naturally. And that looks amazing already. I may have showed this version to see.
Yeah, and I love how gentle it is on the skin, because you can be really gentle there, but it's just going to get rid of minor fluctuations, like if the person was a little warm, because sometimes cameras actually pick up the infrared heat that you didn't see with your eye, and it leads to red splotchiness that you might not have seen on set because the camera exaggerates it.
Yeah, it does. Yes, it does. But I love this. So now I can just go in there and make my own tweaks to this. So I can go through here if I'm wanting, add a little more skin depth, just a tad. I can go through and I'll throw some noise in there as well. We'll make sure that I have none of that. I want to take my shine removal up a little bit more.
And shine removal, for those of you who haven't tried it, is this great setting. You'll notice that they're right on the forehead. This was an outdoor shoot, I'm assuming, Matthew. So
it was.
People sweat people perspire.
Exactly.
I'm sorry, if it's a beautiful woman, she glistens. But
Right.
shine
She
removal sort of
glistens.
acts like powder, right? And it just tones that down gently. And it's lovely because it doesn't destroy the skin texture. It just gets rid of the shininess.
It's what we want. It's exactly what we want, which is fantastic. I mean, this is just I don't need to slim her face that much at all. I think that's wonderful like that. I'm gonna go back to this version as well, just to show you before and after. It's so amazing. We can go back here again. So if I want to enhance the eyes, I can as well. Just a tad. Shouldn't have really dark circles, but I can go down and just take it away even more. The eyes enlarged, I can go up a little bit more on that if possible, just a tad.
And the goal with eye enlargement, folks, is not to give people anime eyes. It's for situations like this where you're shooting outdoors in bright light and they're squinting just a little bit. It just opens the eyes up gently. We don't want to go bug-eyed. That's why he used such a small amount on the eye enlarge. So this is just to get rid of the squint.
Just a tad, just a tad. And I love this already. This is wonderful. If I wanted to, like, again, like just take it down more, just go to opacity and take that down just a tad. And that's actually kind of cool, just like that.
Very
and
good.
I can save this. Like I'll go create right now. Create my preset. Now saved. Well, actually, now it's saving.
Now, there was a good question here from Colin. I'm sorry, from Cody, and I think we all suffer this. How do you know when you've over-processed a photo? I think you kind of did that by looking at the side-by-side view and toggling back and forth between it, right? So that you can look at the original and look at the next.
Exactly. Because you don't want to get too heavy-handed for sure. You just want to take your time. And this is a personal preferences, sure. I've seen a lot that go way too far, but that's just me, in my opinion. I think if skin looks like skin, where you see pores, that's great. If you take the pores away, you've gone too far.
All right, excellent. And there was a technical question. Go ahead and queue up your next image if you would, Matthew, if you want to show one more.
I'm gonna do the
And
same.
I'll answer a couple of these technical questions. So Perfectly Clear in Lightroom works as an extension. There's two ways of using it. One way is the batch export menu, so you can apply it to several images from the shoot. And the other is the edit in menu. So everything here, it does hand it off back and forth in Lightroom. That's a limitation of Lightroom. The only adjustments you can make in Lightroom are the Lightroom sliders. Nobody's plugins in Lightroom have that capability. But what I recommend is use it in Lightroom for that sort of batch processing workflow. If you do have Photoshop with a photography plan, you can always send a Lightroom object over to Photoshop as a smart object to work with layers and other hand tools, but Perfectly Clear works there as well. So take that. The interface, as far as Lightroom goes, we won't have time today, Double Take, to go into all of those, but there's a bunch of tutorials on their YouTube channel. The interface is exactly the same. So in Photoshop and Lightroom, it's exactly the same. The only difference is the batch export menu if you decide to use that. So that's pretty straightforward. So I think we addressed that one on how those work. Is there a preference between Perfectly Clear and On One? I've used both through the years. They serve different purposes. Perfectly Clear is mostly about getting beautiful natural images. We're showing the beauty workflows today, but I use it heavily on my landscape and my product photography, and it's great for contrast and exposure. If you decide you'd like to use On One software for effects or other more stylized images, go right ahead. There are just different products for different needs. So that's great. And Stephen, we're glad you're enjoying it. And is there a preference? We addressed On One. That's great. So I think that took all of the technical questions. Matthew, you got another one here. So you've got some images open actually in Lightroom, it looks like.
I do. So I love Lightroom in a major way for sure. This makes my life so much easier. So I want to show this really fast as well. I'm going to go through and just do one really fast. I know we're running out of time, but so here we are. I'm going through a set of images. I'm going to make my one adjustment, and now I want to apply that adjustment to all the other images.
And what Lightroom's doing there when it says preparing a copy for editing is it just extracted a 16-bit high-quality TIFF. So that part you're waiting on there is Lightroom. Yes, that's the moment to think. So, and it might have opened up behind there. Sometimes it'll open up behind if you have Photoshop running as well, or switch over to Photoshop and make sure it's not running there.
Okay, hold on. Oh, there we are. There we are.
Yeah.
So this is without doing anything at all. I just went through and it's on its own, making adjustments, and that looks incredible already. I'm gonna go see if I can go bigger on this just to show what it's done. So here we have without anything being done, and here we have just all or automatically going through and making adjustments, which is amazing. But I can go through and now make my own adjustments to this. I definitely want to take some of the dark circles out from under her eyes just a little bit more. That's nice right there. It makes a big difference. That tweak is beautiful. I think I can go to a little fidelity just a tad as well.
I like that. And I just love, one of my favorite things about Perfectly Clear is how it finds such great exposures almost automatically.
Automatically. I love it. Go back down again just for a second here. I love going back and forth. That question earlier about toggling back and forth when you're going too far. You know, you definitely have the ability to change your opacity on there and make it anywhere you want, where you're comfortable. I love it when skin looks like skin. So it's just a small amount. So the person looks like they're just looking great without having a lot of work done. That's
very nice. Very nice.
So I can save this. I'm going to create a Zendaya preset. Clear. Save that.
You already named it. So make version 2.
Yes.
There you go.
There we are. I'll save that again there. And then now I can apply these to all the other images and send to my client in like 5.
You're breaking up just a little bit there, Matthew. So give it a second for your connection to stabilize. But what he's going to do there, once he has that preset, is Matthew is able to actually go into Lightroom and select all of those images in Lightroom, which it looks like he's ready to do now. And then he can invoke the batch export. So you're just going to grab all those images, right?
Yep. Grab all those images. Now go to export. I'm already here. So you're probably at hard drive normally in your Lightroom. I'm gonna go down to Perfectly Clear. I've made my preset already, so I go to user presets and I go to the one I just made, Zendaya version 2. Now I can send it to any folder I want. I can put it on a Dropbox, send it to my client, anything I want to do. So I can choose a folder. I'll just go actually where I have it set already, specific folder. I already have that set. I'm gonna name this the Zendaya folder, version 2. I have the name there as well, Zendaya.
And you could even do other advanced options if you guys want, like down convert, make sure it's ready for the web with sRGB, reduce the file size, toss on a watermark for client review. So there's a lot of options in there that you can do if needed, which is pretty cool. Well, Matthew, this has been great. I want to give away 2 prizes, and then I'll have you give folks some resources where they can go. You guys asked for the Perfectly Clear YouTube channel. I put that on the comments over there, but it's pretty easy to find. If you just search for the user Perfectly Clear, when you go to YouTube, it'll pop right up. There's a bunch of tutorials on there that are easy to find. Let's go ahead and give away some prizes here. We're going to give away one to somebody who asked a question over on the G Plus page, and then we'll give one who asked some question here in the forum. And so that one for the G Plus page is going to go to Steve Blackwell. So Steve, send a message to rich@Photofocus and let me know your contact information, and we'll get that over to you. So that's Steve Blackwell is going to get a copy of both the Photoshop and the Lightroom version.
Congrats, Steve.
And then let's see here. We'll take a look at all the answered questions so far. And boom, one of the ones that came up, and we have got, there we go, Cody Donlin. So Cody, you asked some great questions today, and you were randomly selected.
She did.
So there we go. So you can contact me as well, Cody Donlin. So I really appreciate that. And guys, you know, we are going to be at WPPI. If any of you are going to be at WPPI, the show in Las Vegas here coming up, Matthew's actually going to be in the booth giving some demonstrations for Perfectly Clear.
Yes.
And some of the other Photofocus team members are going to be there giving their demonstrations. Matthew, tell folks a few more places where they can find you or get information, and maybe if you've got that link you put up earlier, you can tell folks that URL to get that lighting video that you're giving everybody, because today everybody's a winner.
Absolutely. Everybody who's checking in can go to MatthewJordanswift.com/free and get a free video on photographic lighting packed with a lot of great information about photographic lighting. You can find me on Facebook. You can find me on Twitter at Matthew_Jordan_S. I'm there all the time. And I'm also on Periscope quite a bit. As a matter of fact, I was Periscoping quite a bit today from Tokyo, from the convention here. And we're doing the same thing from WPPI as well.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, Matthew, thank you so much for joining today. I always love when I learn something. It was great to see your insights into managing a set. You know, just to sort of recap, if you guys, and make sure if you didn't watch the whole thing, go back. Matthew shared some great secrets about being comfortable and running a set where you and the clients really feel engaged. He gave some insight into working with the team and how to build that team together, as well as being comfortable to switch between things. Now, in an hour, I'm sure we could have talked for days on these topics, but be sure to check out Matthew's website. He's got a great blog, and you'll get a chance to catch up with him at WPPI. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in.
Thanks, everyone.